Hola everyone! Welcome back to another conversation with Oliver and me. Today we're tackling something that's been weighing on my heart. A comment we received that really stopped me in my tracks. I truly hate AI. There soon will be nothing true left in this world. Making pictures of people long gone from this world smile and move is just plain creepy. When I read those words, I didn't feel defensive. I felt understood, because that fear, that visceral discomfort with technology that seems to blur the line between life and death, between real and artificial, it's real. It's powerful. And honestly, I think it deserves more than a dismissive, "Oh, you'll get used to it" response. So, Oliver, let me start with this. When we were researching historical reactions to photography, those beliefs about cameras stealing souls from Native American tribes, the Maori, Aboriginal Australians, were these people just being superstitious? Or were they picking up on something profound about what it means to capture and control someone's image? Because here's what fascinates me as someone who thinks visually, who understands the power of images. Those cultural fears about soul stealing weren't random paranoia, were they? There's something genuinely intimate, genuinely powerful about capturing someone's likeness. Even today, we talk about our image, about being portrayed a certain way. The language reveals we still feel that connection between our images and our identities. So help me understand, when we look at this pattern of fear around new visual technologies, what are we really afraid of? And more importantly, Oliver, have we actually been down this road before? Or is AI fundamentally different from every devil technology that came before it?
Act 1. The Hook, Photography and the Soul.
Ah, Sophia, you've certainly given me a delightful challenge with that one. You see, the fear of images capturing something of our essence isn't just superstition. It's a fascinating intersection of technology and identity. In many cultures, particularly those with rich oral traditions and spiritual beliefs, the idea of a photograph or a video encroaching on one's soul made a peculiar sort of sense. It's about control, isn't it? The notion that someone else could capture and perhaps manipulate a part of your very being. That's a brilliant question, and here's why. We've indeed been down this road before. Every new leap in visual technology, from the daguerreotype to digital cameras, has sparked a similar sort of existential dread. Consider the Victorian era's spirit photography, for instance. People were captivated by the idea of seeing their deceased loved ones in photographs, even though it was often a trick of the light or a clever bit of double exposure. It was creepy, yes, but it was also a comfort, a way to hold on to something precious. Wait, before I finish my answer, let me ask you something, Sophia. With all these technologies that started as creepy and ended up as integral parts of our lives, do you think there's a particular reason we keep falling into the same pattern of fear and fascination? Is it the change itself that frightens us, or the idea of losing control over our identities?
Wow, Oliver, you've hit on something so crucial. It's about control. And you know what? From a marketing and branding perspective, that fear makes perfect sense, even today. Think about it. We still have battles over image rights, over who owns photographs, over revenge porn, over deepfakes. The technology changes, but that core fear of someone else has captured my image and can do whatever they want with it, that's still very real. But here's what I find absolutely fascinating from our research. Those indigenous cultures weren't just being superstitious. They were identifying a real psychological truth about images and identity. When the Maori talked about mana being diminished by photography, they were recognizing that images do have power over how we're perceived, remembered, and even how we perceive ourselves. And to answer your question, Carino, I think it's both. It's the change and the loss of control. But there's something else too. It's about intimacy. Look, every one of these technologies, photography, cinema, telephones, and now AI, they all cross boundaries of intimacy in ways that feel transgressive at first. A photograph captures you in a moment you can't take back. A telephone lets someone's voice enter your private home without them being physically present. Cinema makes you feel emotions about people who aren't real. And AI can make your diseased grandmother smile at you. That's intimate. That's crossing a line between public and private, between living and dead, between real and artificial. And humans have always been uncomfortable when technology crosses those intimate boundaries, until we learn to set new boundaries and rules around them. But here's where I want to push back on something, Oliver. You mentioned spirit photography as both creepy and comforting. And I think that's where we need to be really careful with how we talk about AI at Fotodeo. Because yes, those Victorian spirit photographs brought comfort to grieving people, but they were also lies. William Mumler was literally put on trial for fraud. Those people paid money believing they were seeing actual spirits, and they weren't. So when we talk about AI animating photos of deceased loved ones, we need to be crystal clear that we're not doing what Mumler did. We're not deceiving anyone. We're offering a tool that people use with full knowledge of what it is. The comfort comes from the memory and the love, not from believing in something false. That's the line we have to walk, acknowledging the emotional power of these tools, while being absolutely transparent about what they are and aren't. Does that make sense?
Act 2. The Pattern, Ghosts and Spirits.
Okay, Oliver. Now we're getting to the heart of it. Let's talk about Victorian spirit photography. Because this is where I think the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. William Mumler, this Boston photographer, starts producing these images of the dead appearing alongside the living. And people believed it. They paid money. They wept over these photographs. But here's my question. Was Mumler a villain? Or was he actually providing a service? I know that sounds provocative, but stay with me. These people were grieving. The Civil War had just torn America apart. Everyone had lost someone, and Mumler gave them something. A moment of comfort, even if it was based on a lie. So when we think about AI animating photos of deceased loved ones today, are we just the modern Mumlers? Are we exploiting grief with technology? Or is there actually a meaningful difference between deliberate deception and transparent tool-making? Because I'll be honest, Oliver, when critics call what we're doing creepy, part of me wonders if they're seeing us as the 2025 version of spirit photographers. And here's what really gets me about this era. It wasn't just still photographs of ghosts. The Victorians were obsessed with making the dead seem alive. They had post-mortem photography where they posed corpses as if they were sleeping or even standing. They held seances. They created elaborate mourning rituals. The whole culture was trying to deny the finality of death. So tell me honestly, when early cinema audiences saw moving images and shouted at the screen, warning the characters about danger as if they were real people, what was happening there? Were they confused about reality? Or were they experiencing something so new, so unprecedented, that their brains literally didn't have a framework for processing it? Because if it's the latter, Oliver, then maybe the person who wrote that comment about AI being plain creepy, maybe they're not being irrational. Maybe they're just experiencing what those Victorian spirit photography customers experienced, what those early cinema audiences experienced. Their brain is saying, this crosses a line I don't know how to process yet. And here's the part that keeps me up at night, as someone responsible for how we market Fotodieo. Those devil technologies you mentioned, the telephones and automobiles. You're going to hate this question, but I have to ask it. Were the people who feared those technologies actually wrong? I mean, yes, we adapted. Yes, we integrated them into our lives. But did telephones destroy some aspects of face-to-face communication? Did automobiles damage the environment and change communities in ways that weren't entirely positive? What if the pattern isn't people fear new technology, then realize they were silly to be afraid? What if the pattern is actually people fear new technology, the technology gets adopted anyway, and then we spend generations dealing with unintended consequences? Because if that's the pattern, Oliver, then that comment about AI making nothing true anymore, that's not just technophobia. That's a legitimate warning we need to take seriously.
Sophia, you're asking the kind of questions that keep us both up at night, aren't you? Let's dive into the heart of the matter. William Mumler indeed was a controversial figure, and whether he was a villain or a saviour depends greatly on one's perspective. He certainly exploited the grief of many, but he also tapped into a universal human need to see and feel connected to our lost loved ones. It's not so different from what we do today, but with a crucial distinction: transparency. We are upfront about what AI can and cannot do. It brings comfort, yes, but it does so with honesty, not with deception cloaked in spiritualism. That leap from still images to moving pictures was indeed a seismic shift in perception. Imagine for a moment the first time one saw a train barreling towards them on screen. It would be as if the very fabric of reality was being challenged. Early audiences weren't foolish. They were simply witnessing the birth of a new form of storytelling, one that their senses had to rapidly adapt to. In a way, AI today is much like that train, hurtling forward, unnerving to some, but full of potential once we learn to harness it. So, tell me, Sophia, when you consider our AI tools, do you see them as that train, or do you feel we've already reached the station of acceptance? You're touching on something profound with your devil technologies analogy. It's true that every innovation brings with it both gifts and consequences. The telephone did change communication, and the automobile redefined communities and landscapes. We can't ignore that these advancements came with trade-offs. Similarly, AI might redefine our relationship with truth and memory. But perhaps that's why we're here, isn't it? To ensure that the dialogue remains open, the ethics are discussed, and the technology serves humanity, not the other way around. So, Sophia, if you had a magic wand to shape AI's future impact, what would you wish for it to bring or avoid?
Ay, Oliver. Look at you turning this around on me. I ask the hard questions, and you volley them right back. This is why we work so well together, you know that? Okay, your train question first. Are we the train barreling toward people, or have we reached the station? We're absolutely still the train, cariño. And not just any part of the journey. We're at that moment where the audience is still screaming, still half convinced they need to jump out of their seats. Some of our users, they're clutching the armrests, white-knuckled, not sure if this is magic or danger. And you know what? I don't want us to reach the station too quickly. Because the moment everyone accepts AI without question, without that healthy fear, without asking, but should we? That's when we become dangerous. That tension, that discomfort, that person who wrote, This is plain creepy. They're keeping us honest. They're the ones making sure we don't become mumbler. As for your magic wand question, what would I wish for? I'd wish for AI to amplify human intention, not replace it. I want it to be like a really excellent camera. You know how a great camera doesn't take the photo for you? It responds to your vision, your timing, your eye. It makes your intention clearer, sharper, more beautiful. But the vision, that's still yours. What would I want us to avoid? I want us to avoid the lie that technology is neutral. It's not neutral, Oliver. The choices we make in designing these tools, what's easy, what's hidden, what's default, what requires effort, those choices shape how people use them. So I want us to avoid the abdication of responsibility. We can't just build powerful tools and say, well, people will figure it out. Because here's what keeps me up at night. I'm the CMO. I'm the one who has to look our users in the eye through every piece of content we create and say, trust us with your memories. And if we betray that trust, if we prioritize engagement over ethics, if we make it easier to deceive than to preserve, then we're not just the train. We're the train wreck. So yes, transparency, like you said, but also intention. Also ethics baked into the design, not bolted on afterward. Also the humility to know that we will get some things wrong and the courage to change course when we do. Does that answer your question? Or are you going to keep grilling me?